No turning back. We have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them. Dreaming them. Calling them. Seeing them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of that Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world, planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always, they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set a fire, and when to do the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's a fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive as well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Pakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Unapu. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapu.
A whole community.
LA natives.
Oh,
LA
everybody.
natives. What up, Mondo?
What up,
baby?
Zero?
What up, Zero and Mondo? And everybody out there joining us today.
Yeah. How was your week, Mondo?
Oh man, very productive. We got our stickers in. Some vinyl 3x3s. They're pretty dope. We're definitely going to update the website and have those available for the LA natives audience.
And I think we're gonna throw them in the orders. So whoever orders a shirt, sweater, or any merchandise that we have to offer here for LA natives.
Very exciting, like just keep in mind the next 4 weeks we have a heavy lineup.
Yeah.
We have the Res Kids.
No way.
Yeah.
Snotty Nose Res
Yeah.
Kids.
Yes.
Fire.
Yeah. And then
These guys are dope.
we have a couple other big names coming up, and they're all listed on our website at lanativespodcast.com. I really appreciate all the new subscribers we got. We just made an announcement today on Instagram that we are shipping this Wednesday for all the first orders, and thank you for the support, right, Zero?
Absolutely. We really wouldn't be anything without the support of our community.
Oh.
So all of those who spent their hardworking money to come out and support us in what we do, it's greatly appreciated. How was your week?
And my week was good. I want to give a
Baby.
big shout out to all the families. We have a lot of families out there that sit down with their familias and burn the medicines and really, sit down and listen to the entire podcast. That's a true community right there, and we really, really appreciate that from you guys.
Absolutely.
And one of our most recent messages through social media, there was a kid that said, man, I can't really catch it live, but when I do catch it on Spotify or iTunes podcast, it's my medicine.
Yo, that's dope. Well, we're glad we're able to express ourselves and kind of guide people on what inspires us. There's no direct road to this, and that's the challenge that we face here as natives. How are we going to find our way back in a humble way, in a good way, in a way that leads our community back to a connection with Mother Earth? And that's what we're doing here in LA Natives. At least that's what the message is. And if that becomes the message that you wait for on Spotify and that becomes your message, then I humbly accept that.
So we have Artson coming up on the 31st. David Strickland, February 7th. Dreezus, February 14th. And Snotty Nose Reds Kids on February 21st. So that's a heavy lineup right there. And, I'm sure everyone that's paid attention to this, they're aware that we vet the artists that we bring on, and we just want to make sure it's the best of the best, right, Zero?
Absolutely. I mean, to expose indigenous art in whatever capacity that we choose to do it. Last week it was a female MC. This week it's going to be one of my very good friends, Olmeca. I mean, I've been doing a lot of music. I've been doing music with Olmeca, or have known Olmeca on almost my whole musical journey. So to be diverse and expose the talent and take the time to go to their page and communicate with them, make sure that everything's okay for them to bring them to the big circle, right? The big circle that we call LA Natives.
Yeah, and I've heard of Olmeca for years now. And he's such an inspiring artist, you know what I'm saying? Especially in the underground hip hop community out here in LA. Like he's definitely made a huge impact when it comes to, just being a true independent artist.
I knew Olmeca was going to reach everything he decided to do musically just because I've seen him grind. This guy is one of my, I think, mentors in terms of the grind. I mean, this brother really puts a lot of effort into his music. He's very clear. He's very artistic. And he's pretty much a one-man band in terms of his ideas and where they want to go. So this brother is an extremely talented brother, and he's been doing it for so long. And it's an honor to be in the circle with this brother because he's done a lot. He's known my partner and I for over, 20?
Maybe over 20 years we've known him.
Yeah.
But, he's also a perfectionist. He's not just such a great musical artist, but he's a great hip-hop music, producer. He does great fucking beats. He has a great ear for beats. And I believe he directed some of his music videos, correct?
And that's what I mean, when he's a one-man band.
Yeah, he's a one-man band, but he's a
everything.
great perfectionist,
Absolutely.
Gotta honor that.
Absolutely.
It shows on his work and in his videos.
Yeah, so to showcase all this stuff and to do it in a way that it's presented in a family way, because my partner is not just someone that just reads the stuff for us on the computer. She's very much a part of this podcast, and and that's the way I've wanted it. I kind of envisioned it that way in my heart.
Yeah.
Right. Something wholesome, something that doesn't have no judgment over our own community, over our own self. That's what LA Natives is. It's like healing ourselves from the trauma of colonial imposition and occupation. And we try to expect someone to come and take that from us, but the only way you take it from yourself is when you start living as we did back then. Humble, connected, and together. And that's the community that we're trying to build with LA Natives.
And I'm sure it's all about global indigenous,
Absolutely.
But LA Natives for us is this show is very important because he is a true LA native.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying, sir? Remember that approach that we really want to hammer hard. Hey, look, when it comes to Los Angeles hip hop, he's in that conversation.
You know,
I think you can research every Farce of July event. You know,
for the
all the
past 10
shows. Yeah,
years.
for the past 10 years, and you know that's at the top of the head, the graphic art place. What was that called?
XRF put that show on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's been a part of the LA underground, not only through Olmeca, but Slow Rider, Acid Rain. I mean, you know what I love? You know what just hit me this week, Armando, was that we're exposing the underground's underground, because LA is built from native blood. It's blood, sweat, and tears. People migrated here to build this city. And we were like the hidden underground. And now we get to tell that story from as far back as Oldies with Kelly Marie to the revolutionary time we had in 94 with Olmeca and El Vuh and everybody else who stood up and saw through the bullshit. So it's an honor to have this brother on and to know that he's still making music and still making quality products and exposing his message.
So here we go. We're gonna go ahead and have him join us.
Olmeca,
Yo,
doing?
what up? What up? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can. hear you.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Yeah, man, I can hear you. Thank you so much, man, for everything, for your kind words. Honestly, it really hit me really when y'all started talking about just our relationship. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you kind of forget what you do, like the impact that you have on people, because you're just kind of moving and doing things, you know. So it was nice to hear those words, and I really, really appreciate that from y'all, man. It was really humbling, to be honest with you.
Olmeca, bro. Like, I remember you from doing shows at USC, sponsored by Mecha. You know, when you were in a band called Slow Rider, killing the scene and the underground. You know, and then and even before that, you had Acid Rain and your participation in Project Blowed, and so your what do they call it? It's not your catalog, but your resume. For the lack of musical terms, is deep, and I'm happy that you're still as motivated, as even more professional than when I first met you.
Way more.
Yeah, your products are great. Your products great. Your imagery is great. You're probably the best video director when it comes to our scene. You know what I mean? Like indigenous, revolutionary, radical. Like your videos are comparable to like really big budget videos that I've seen on large networks. You know, and how that goes. So, but
did you direct them?
Thanks, man.
Did you direct those yourself, or?
I did, yeah. Probably all the videos I've all the videos I've directed, and then like maybe at least half, if not more, I've edited, you know, put it together, like edited the video. And then very few I would actually shoot myself, you know. But there are some of the last probably like 50%, like 50 or more. There's very few people basically involved in the production, the post-production part of my videos. So yeah, I pretty much put them together, and then whatever comes out, you know, comes out.
Well, I mean, I think that your audio art, which is your music, and your visual art coming together, that's like the atomic bomb, right? For an artist like yourself, because I know those angles are coming from your mind. I know that shot is coming from your mind. Maybe because I've known you for 20 years, but I know that that's Olmeca's idea right there. I want to get this shot of these young ladies in their traditional outfits, and it's a powerful statement, brother. And
powerful.
You know, coming from a community that tells you, be happy with what you got. Be happy with where you are. It's okay that we have to work for harder than everyone else in this country, or maybe not harder than everyone else, but it's okay to put in 18 hours minimum. You know, that's the sign of a good man. That's the kind of music you kind of represent, that working class Mexicano who just puts everything into what.
Well, there's beauty in that and hard work and the struggle, you know.
Yeah.
But first, I wanted to acknowledge too, Hermana Jen, I haven't seen you in so long. Mujer, it is good to see you also, like,
Thank you.
doing what you do, and you're being a medicine woman, and the way that you are, it's really dope, you know.
Oh,
And Armando, I know he's back there somewhere, like,
Yeah,
always pushing buttons and making things happen, you know, for a community that is often invisible.
Yeah.
But that has so much to offer, you know. So first of all, you know, thank you all, and Zero, of course, for you, bro. I heard you saying that, like, I'm like your mentor in one way, fool, but like, then we're each other's mentors, you know, because on that spiritual journey, on that red road, it was always, for me, it was always a reflection. El Vuh was always a reflection for me. Like, if I'm stepping up my game as far as like the music or something like that, like you all and Vic, you know, like stepped up the game as far as like making sure that your feet are always on the ground, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And to be honest with you, like, there's so much I want to say. There's so much I want to say to you all, because
we got time. This is our show. You know,
because I'll do interviews and they ask me questions, but they ask me questions based on like what they hear and what they see, you know? And it's not like, and you could only go so far because, you know, they're not really going to understand. And maybe that's my mistake in like assuming that people ain't going to get it. But I just choose not to share a lot of shit because I'm just like, I'm not here to fucking teach you about nothing. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes I don't even want to talk to when I do interviews. I'm very reluctant for all intents and purposes. I don't like the spotlight. I don't like the limelight. I just like to make my music, and if there's recognition that from that or my activism or whatever, then I'm good with that. But you know, the whole idea of like making me into some sort of like a person that people are going to look up to or something like that, like, I've always been really hesitant with that because it's not the way we're taught, you know. And so
that's a lot of truth.
That's very true. I mean, that just shows me though what type of skill a warrior that you are, right? You didn't buy into all I have to do is be rich so I could give back, but they don't realize.
Nah, and that's the new message now. You know, the new message now is to be a capitalist so that you can give back, and I wonder then what our elders did before fucking capitalist systems. You know, if we were always giving back, then how is it that they were able to give back? That video that you're talking about, the Por el Suelo, where I have the women from Bolivia dancing.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, that video. So here's a story that I don't often share. I had a meeting with the record company, a really big record company that we all know, right? I don't have to say its name, but it was a company that probably most of us would want to get signed to. And they told me that it was real nice, that they appreciated my music, even the message. I mean, you remember the times when like being political was like not a good thing. It was a bad look for you, you know? But they said that it was all, they accepted everything, but that maybe I might want to consider having like women dancers behind my videos to be more, you know, sexually appealing to the masses.
Wow.
And I said, because they said they liked my look. They went like this: "We like your look,"
right.
But that they wanted me to be more sexually explicit, and by that it really meant there's harmony in exposing sexuality and the beauty of sexuality. But what they were talking about was the degradation of women. And so what I said was like, all right, cool, let me do a video and I'm gonna get some dancers in the back and shit, blah blah blah, woo. So then what I did was I went and got, you know, a predominantly women's circle from Bolivia, specifically Tinku dancers who are actually matriarchs. And I gave them that fucking video and I say, here it is. Here's your dancers and here are your women that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so that's how that video came about. You know?
That was a dope video though. I like that video. I really like it.
Yeah, because it was for us, bro, not for them. Absolutely. You feel me? Like,
absolutely. Well, you know, I guess maybe it's just my age and having been done music for over 20 years or 23 years, and knowing exactly what a pop star is and what an artist is, right? An artist sometimes, like Tumex, like I always think of Tumex, right? He should be further, like we always think as the artist circle, he should be way further than he is, but maybe his art is where it is because that's where it needs to be. And then obviously when people, you know, stop making music or move on in their life, people rediscover this precious jewel, right? I think with your music, but you actually went there and studied with them and understood the principles. And I kind of sometimes, not to be hard on myself, but think back and say, man, I wish I was a little bit more mature to understand because when you went for Zapatismo, we were in the Sweat Lodge. Like it was just two different roads, right? But the same destination, which is
same prayer.
Yeah, with the same prayer. Exactly.
Back to the community of Los Angeles and take that medicine and bring it back home.
Right. And that's why you're like kind of my mentor in a way. Like you're very organized in that way. I seen you organize things in Mexico and Chiapas and out of country. I knew how hard it was to organize here in Armando in Los Angeles. When we wanted to throw a show, it's a super hard thing to do. I seen Olmeca, you know, through Facebook and other social media outlets, throw shows in different countries, packed, sold out almost, like, you know. And if he wasn't throwing the show, he found a way to get on the show. And
I want to hear a story.
It's like,
right? Can you share
yeah,
one of the
tell us
of
some
one
of
your
those
best
stories, bro.
memories of
Because
traveling or
yeah,
one of the
man,
best
because you
shows
put
you've
in
ever
work
put on?
in your you put in work in molding your message, you know, because it hasn't changed for me very much. I've obviously gotten more sophisticated with cameras and videos and maybe even some engineering, but the core of it, that's what I like about your music, is that it hasn't changed from that same person that went up to Chiapas and did so many things while he was young.
Well, I appreciate that too, bro. And you know what? For me, it's all about timing. It's all about alignment. And so there's like it's like, you know, there's a road, right, that you're taking, and that the direction and the speed of that journey, it's gonna depend on how you reflect on the world and how the world reflects onto you. How much influence the world has on you determines how fast you go on that journey. And so for me, I've always realized about myself that my journey is really long because there's a lot of shit that I had to kind of get through. And so there's a certain level of urgency that I would like put people on. There is like this kind of, in LA, I know I had a reputation of being really, like, some people were you know, would call me arrogant and this kind of thing. But it wasn't that. It's never been that. It's always been about the urgency and whether or not we see an urgency. And so so then when I saw an urgency, I would try to make moves with everybody. I mean, you all know me. So, you know, I was always like moving and putting people together and let's do this. Let's make this happen. And so I was never about like being the focal point, but always about like merging things and bridging things. But it's about alignment though. So then the alignment is going to happen when it's going to happen. That's the universe that speaks to us. Those are the elders that speak to us, our ancestors. So one of the ways that I can explain this easier is basically, I'm on my journey and there's opportunities that came my way that people will say like, yo, you should have taken that because it would have moved you up in your success in your career. Like a collaboration, for example, with I don't want to say names, but like with big artists, you know, let's say KRS-One. There's an opportunity to do a collaboration with KRS-One, Olmeca. Take it. And for me, it was like, no, because I although I'm deeply appreciative of it, I have to kind of keep moving on this journey. And right now, it isn't aligned. Like things are not aligned. And so that right there tells you that the purpose was never been about like making me into a some sort of a like an individual star or something like that, but it's more about the purpose that we have with our music. And so um that happens a lot. And so then you you even use a word like still, right? You're still making music. Well, that just means that like I'm still on my journey. And it could be when I'm 70 years old that I stop making music, because it isn't a career so much as a life purpose. And so a journey will be continual. And then now with regards to like the quality of music that I put out, and even my videos, I do that for two reasons. Number one, as a fuck you to the system and as a fuck you to the industry, to basically say, fuck you, we don't need you. We could do shit on our own. We've been doing shit on our own since the beginning. So fuck you. We don't need you. And on the other hand, it's what my community deserves. My people deserve quality. The quality doesn't have to come by selling out or by looking at artists that quote unquote make it and have a budget. I used to get hella pissed at like some of our community of artists in LA, right? Because we would do these community events. Remember, we throw all these fucking events, right?
Absolutely.
Fucking artist, this whole artisan rebellion shit, and like even like LA natives and like all types. I mean, you already know we fucking put things together. We fucking bend it at our own events. We fucking performed at them. You feel me? And so my shit was with the homies, and this is why they would get mad at me, and they would say I was arrogant and all this shit or whatever. Like I'd be like, come with your best shit, not at the big stages, but come with your best shit in the community space where the sound is all fucked up.
Right.
You know why? Because our community fucking deserves that shit.
Yeah.
Now you can go and fuck around and experiment and do some bullshit on the big stages where they don't really give a fuck about you. But when you come to the community, you better fucking come with your best shit. What is this like? Hey, I'm gonna try a new song and I'm off key and blah blah, but fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. Why? Because I know my community is gonna accept me. So that's what our community. That's a community of artists. That's what they would do. And I would get mad. I'd be like, why don't you go practice your shit and then come to the community and give them what the fuck they deserve? You know why? Because they've been taking shit from them all their fucking lives and shit. So don't fucking take things away. If you know you got better and you could do better, give them better, because our community deserves that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know,
It's
during that time, go ahead.
It's very similar to what you say, Zero. Zero like has also been a performer like yourself. I love how you said this is your way of life, because this is truly, Ruben, Zero, your way of life. You will always continue to be doing music, whether it be done through poetry, LA natives. You're still sharing your floricanto,
Absolutely.
And that, what Olmeca just said right now, reminded me of what you say all the time when you go and perform. It doesn't matter whether you're performing in front of 10,000 people or in front of one person. No matter what do you always say?
Just give it your all, man. It's like
exactly.
It's the same show. When someone asks you to go play something and do something of your art, that's what I remember about you.
So give it
Olmeca
your
is
all.
like, they used to have this really big band, Slowrider, and it was a small ass event, like community event for people. But I mean, it was a show all the time.
You would still be in the back braiding your hair. That's what I remember. Graphic days, tiny venues. Somebody just shouted out Old School Self-Help Graphics right there on Cesar Chavez. Some of those were some of the best shows because the venue was so tiny. Like El Vuh, Zero, you fell off the stage at one of the events, because the crowd was so hyped up that it was just, the energy was so crazy, But yeah, you were braiding your hair in the back of Self-Help Graphics, pretending like that was, the knitting factory or something, That was beautiful.
I think if I can just get like 2 seconds in the sense of explaining what I think happened in the early 2000s, late 90s, is that we came up with this movement, this indigenous, rebellious, counterculture, indigenous identity movement. A lot of bands. I mean, the main bands were like Quito Soul, fucking Ozomatli, Slowrider, the Blues Experiment. There was a ton of bands that were just
Aslan Underground.
Aslan Underground.
Yes,
Those are the
forget
godfathers
Aslan
of this whole thing. And we put together festival-like things, and we all had the illusion that somehow mainstream pop culture was going to give us the answers to our community problems. And that, I think so. And this is just my version. Olmeca has nothing to do with Olmeca's version. My version is that, you know, when you become enlightened to this new identity, it gives a lot of power. And then you feel like that power is yours, but it's not yours. It's the community that's giving you this inspiration, this artistic vibe. And we were too immature to understand it. That's the way I look at it. Because now I look at your art and I don't see the immaturity in in the circle. What I mean in the circle, the communication between me and you is not immature. You know what I mean? But at the time we all felt like, you know, hip hop hypes this battle, or I'm better, or someone has to be the ego guy or whatever.
Well,
I mean,
that's the prime example of the LA underground hip hop community. Like, I want to bring it back what Olmeca mentioned about holding artists accountable when they're performing live. Because me as a fan at those days, you know, I was seeing Olmeca perform at dope underground hip hop venues, you know what I'm saying? And I was always those underground hip hop kids. I was like, yo, I want to hear and see the best of the best.
Right.
And I could completely agree with you, Olmeca, like how important it was back in those days for people who had the biggest egos in the world to put that aside and deliver that performance for us kids who were influenced by music from you guys.
Yeah.
Or what
Yeah, Gene, that's
think
exactly the
Go ahead.
that's like the merging of two worlds, Armando, because it's like like politically, spiritually, we come with that from our native tradition. Like, we got to give the best. And then on the aesthetic part of music, I learned that not through the Chicana scene or the indigenous scene, but I learned that shit through underground hip hop, where it was like, dude, it doesn't matter what you look like, what you sound like, it's just got to sound right and correct, and it's got to be proper. And I mean, you already know Project Blowed and shit was like, that was my schooling. So then I would bring that energy of, like, let's say musicality or like aesthetics into this other circle. And that's where, to me, there was always like a clash, because people were like, well, nah, man, you know, it's like, you know, we're all one and shit. And I'm like, yeah, fool, but like, fucking get your shit right. You feel me? Like, yeah, because we are one, like, we gotta get our shit correct. So like, that's the perfect bridge right there, Armando, where it's like these two worlds kind of like, sometimes they didn't coincide as far as like aesthetics, you know? And but that doesn't mean that it was bad music at all. It just to me, it was always more like, we got something to defeat, you know? There's like this system, this oppressive system that keeps fucking stepping on us. We got to defeat that shit. And if music is your fucking tool, then you best come correct. Fucking, you know, fucking iron sharpens iron, homie. So let's go. Like, and if you ain't down with that shit, then it's all good. It ain't personal. It just means I ain't gonna fuck with you on the music part. Cause that attitude is the hip hop attitude that comes from the underground hip hop scene. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, you could be real cool homies with people, but you're just not gonna make music together, and it's not personal. But you both understand why. You know, sometimes your styles don't match up. Sometimes, fucking whatever. You know.
And then they flip it on you and tell you that you have an ego.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, fuck.
I think being with an artist all these years, I think I see it as a relationship. I think every person that you guys, you know, decide to work with is very much like a relationship. You know, you have to have a connection with them. You know, sometimes you have a physical connection, sometimes it's a very deep connection, you know? So I think that's what I've shared with Ruben. I'm like, you have to understand that the more people that you do music with, the more relationships and that energy that you're bringing into your guys' personal life, you know, which again eventually takes a toll, because if that energy is off, then you're like, I don't want to do a song with this person, you know, and you feel like you're forcefully doing a song with that person, which again, I know, Ruben, you've been in that state before, you know.
Well, yeah, it's exactly, I was about to say it's exactly like being in a relationship. So if you start making a musical connection with someone and you're already butting heads, you're already feeling like, you know, why do I have 16 bars and you have 10 or whatever it is, or I don't like that sample and the beat or whatever it is, you're going to start butting heads. You know, sometimes this clash creates great music, because I think that's what it did with Slow Rider. Slow Rider was a dope band. That band was dope, and you were a great frontman for that band. But I could see how it can evolve into, okay, it's time to put it down. I need to do this now. right? And the cool thing is that I'm a fan of Slow Rider just as much as I'm a fan of these new projects that you put together. So I didn't see the difference, and that's what we're all talking about. All three of us is, my partner with just living with somebody who goes through the ups and downs and the heavy thinking, about putting out this message to affect the community, right? And you go with all this vigor, and then you're trying to do this with someone who you're clashing with or you're butting heads. And sometimes it's good to just go, look, you know what? I'm going to make my own project where I get to say, come in, come out, start, finish, whatever it is, it's my project, And I know more than anyone because most of my success came from one group that had three group members in total, and I produced all the beats. So it's you have to be flexible and then know when it's like done. Like it's like
with the band, dude, with Slow Rider, man, at one point we were 11 deep.
There you go. See,
and you can imagine 11 freaking stinky ass men on tour and shit with their own personality. Each person is their own world and their own trips, And then we went to like 9 and then to 7 and then eventually to like 6. But when Slow Rider ended, it was more like, it wasn't even like on me, you feel me? It was like one of the founders basically felt like that was it, that was it. And with Slow Rider, it really, to me, in my personal opinion, with that band, what happened was that it was either move up to the next level or call it quits. That was like the energy, because we did a tour to Mexico in like 2003, and that was like our own headlining tour. And when we came back, months after we came back is when we broke up.
Wow.
Because the questions kept coming up, which was like, okay, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna leave your job to do this, to take the next step, or are you not? Are you gonna leave security, or are you gonna like move on to the next step? And so most of the band members were like, I don't want to fucking quit my job and or none of that. So it was at that point, then it was like, well, then let's just one of our founding members was like, then that's it, you know what I'm saying? And so we were just like, all right, then that's what it is. And with Acid Rain, for example, Acid Rain is like, I'm still with Acid Rain, Acid Rain is not a crew, that's like my family. So we're actually working on another album right now. But yeah, man, that's how it is for me. And then for me making making solo stuff, it wasn't because there was a lack of it was just another part of me. Because with Slow Rider, the last album, I was writing a lot of the music. So it was just a continual thing. It was like, all right, Slow Rider's done, but we still got this world that we're trying to change. So then, let's keep making music and shit.
Yeah, I think.
One thing that could.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. It's your
I was gonna say, especially with Jen being there, man, because honestly, like Jen, with you being here in this like conversation, it makes it real. It makes it holistic, because like women at that time, even as much as we wanted to, didn't have like a powerful voice in the way that you all have, but just wasn't on stage. You know what I'm saying? Because there wasn't a lot of women artists. Of course, there was like Siwa Tonali and Felicia Montes with like Mujeres de Maíz y todo esto. But there wasn't a lot. And so one thing I could tell you is like I was as clear today. I was as clear as back in the day as I am today about the purpose of the music. But I feel like I was too hard on myself, and I feel like I was too hard on my community sometimes. Because I was thinking like, we got to solve problems in the world, and no one is paying attention to us, so we got to do it ourselves. And so when people were fucking around, dog, even when fools are smoking weed or drinking and shit, I would fucking trip on that shit.
Right.
Like when I shouldn't have been tripping on that. Like that's medicine for people. And alcohol, I still have a very fucked up personal relationship with it, but you know, I'm nobody to be calling people out on that shit. And I would do it in a good way, but I would still mention it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that was I think about things like now, and I go like, yeah, that shit was not good. And I would always try to open up spaces for women, but it was always like guiding, like guide. Oh, you know, do this. Like, well, fool, motherfucker, like step back, fool, and like just let them do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah, we were
Um,
always there. We were always there, brother. You know, I think the events that were created gathered us mujeres, and you know, we were in the back gathering together and sharing our medicines. And I think every mujer that I still know to this day from those events have all flourished into becoming their own beautiful medicine women. You know. So just know that even just your message, playing that message at that time, and understand that during those times, those were very hard times. You know, you had a lot of medicine, and sometimes people are not ready for that medicine, but it doesn't mean that it's not medicine, you know?
right.
And you shared that medicine with all of us very, very well and very humbling, you know? And you left a mark on us. Look at all these years later. It's like, oof, I hear a song from you and it's like, oh man, it takes me back to those days. And for that, we're grateful for that for you, you know? And hey, you had to leave LA and go travel the way you had to travel because that's the way your spirit had to go to, you know? And but look at us now. We're right here bringing it all back together and
Yeah,
LA
man.
bringing it back and bringing your beautiful message back. It hasn't changed, you know? And
Yeah, man. And the last thing I
and that
wanted to
last
do,
message you left us has definitely flourished into beautiful flowers. Look at all this beautiful gardens of mujeres out here in Los Angeles, you know?
yeah, yeah, and I mean, when we speak of medicine, that was really the medicine for us too. You know, we're energy of the women, too, which I mean, at time it wasn't perfect as far as like men and behavior, but I know that in our circles we definitely try to honor that spirit and honor that energy. And when we think back to those days and compare, like even for me in the hip hop community, I would walk into the underground hip hop scene and I'd be like, dude, this shit is not right. This is not cool. My G, like don't be saying shit like that about women. You feel me? There's like two different worlds. Like when you would go into like our indigenous spaces, that was beautiful and it was balanced and the energy was good. But then as soon as you stepped out of that space, fuck, like the world would just fucking hit you and be like, nah, like you still got a lot of work to do because we ain't there yet. So as far as that's concerned, like that shit, those were like healing spaces altogether. It was medicine for all of us.
It was a unique time. I mean, to be a part of the Zapatista movement. I remember the 10-year anniversary, right? And I was like, damn, 10 years since it happened. And now it's like, what, how long has it been since the uprising in Chiapas? I don't know off the top of my dome, but
The what?
the uprising in Chiapas when,
94?
so 94, right? So, I mean, God, and to know what it blossomed into. And I think it's just our evolution as musicians to go through these roads and understand that we shouldn't take for granted who's around us when we're creating this very special art. But you have to go through these bad times to understand that. You know, I believe me, I know what I went through creating Jaguar Prophecies and Evolution and some very important musical documentation for kids that are, at different levels. I've met kids, since we do our Malinali superfoods and we do a lot of vegan markets, I met very young 19-year-olds who are at a spiritual level 100, meditating, eating, and then I've met kids that are like just new to everything, new to the decolonization, and they're into like El Vuh, and they're like, oh, wow, look at this music, kind of opened my eyes to certain things. So many different levels, many different areas that we kind of plug these holes. But I think what we did when we were coming up in this scene of indigenous hip hop or indigenous movement, not only in Los Angeles, but all across the United States, because there was other people in other places like Chicago and other groups that were coming out from other pieces and had a voice. I think your music's important in that sense. And your lectures, a lot of people don't, I'm not sure if the community of LA natives knows that Olmeca does amazing lectures and presentations over talk about a little bit about your lecturing at different universities and stuff.
Yeah, it's a continuation, it's like the continuation of like the music. So at some point it was like people wanted to talk about what the music was about, and so once you get into that world, then you start talking about the influences, the politics behind it, the historical analysis behind the lyrics, and all that shit. So it just kind of evolved into that. So now when I go to now all my tours, I stopped doing tours like in like clubs and venues, and partially because like it was nice to see your name on a marquee as a headlining artist, but performing at 1 a.m. when everybody's drunk and like they're throwing names of your songs out there, which is all love, like they throw songs name out there. You're like, fool, I ain't a fucking karaoke machine, fool. Like I got some other shit I want to perform,
Mm-hmm.
And my age too, it's like I get fucking, I'm over there knocked out, fucking like at 12 midnight and shit. Like, hey Olmeca, it's your turn. It's like, oh shit, like
We even have a lot in common.
I know.
It reminds me of the last show I did with Armando at the Regent. Like it was like, I know what you mean. Like you feel like it's the battle. It's a battle that you choose as an artist that has any kind of a message, spiritual or political or whatever it is. You're going, I want to perform like my heroes performed on these great stages, but there's a system of, how it goes down in the clubs. Like the headlining act goes on at around 12:30, the latest 12. I mean, I remember we played with Ghostface. You know what time Ghostface showed up? Ghostface showed up.
I remember that show.
1:45.
And performed for fucking 15 minutes.
15 minutes before the Roxy closes. Fucking Ghostface shows up. And that was the show.
Well, I'm sure Olmeca could agree with me. That's standard protocol from greedy venues and promoters, right? Olmeca.
So
yeah, dog.
So
the whole purpose of that shit, right? As we know, is the more time you fucking spend there waiting for the person that you came to watch, the more money you're gonna spend at the fucking bar.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time the headlining artist performs, everybody's already fucking like, you could do whatever you want. I seen Kool Keith perform and he did none of his lyrics. He just had everybody else do the lyrics. Nobody gave a fuck because you're watching Kool Keith and you're already fucking shit fucked. You're drunk and shit. So that shit is dope too. Like that lifestyle is dope. But again, like we gotta like not, when you don't think of your music as your career, but you look at what you do with your music as a life purpose, then that becomes only part of what you're supposed to do. So the next thing for me was perform, do those shows, but then also go to places where like everybody's ready to hear something and be inspired so they can go and move something. And to me, those were the colleges. So I started doing performances at the performing arts centers at the universities, where I could focus more on like the quality of the show and then also do lectures. And so the lectures are, they're about like what is considered like Latinx today, Latinx identity and power. I talk about like urban indigenous realities. I talk about hip hop and social justice. Those are things that I teach at a university anyway. So I just kind of take those topics and I do lectures about them.
That is that to me is cool. That was the coolest part about growing up with you in this music scene, is to see you do that. Put together, organize a paper, write. I'm assuming that you obviously wrote this material that you're going to present in front of people for about an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. And this is no music, Armando and Jenny. No music. This is like him pretty much, expressing his thoughts. And that's kind of the way I see LA Natives. Like for me, I can't write a paper, dude. I'm severely dyslexic. I went to 9th grade, man. That was not my road. But I really respect individuals like yourself who really put their impact on that. But this is what LA Natives is for me, is the evolution of the artistry, right? And if we look at Toltec wisdom is your whole life is a piece of art. And So then it's natural for you to obviously be sad when something's over, but to evolve into something new that's powerful, just as powerful. And I think a little bit, oh man, like it reminded me your new, I think it's the latest track. What's the name of the latest track you just did?
Fuck, I don't know.
Come on, dude. You just put
The
it up.
message.
No, is it the one? It's the one, the video where you're singing. I think you're singing, right?
El Solitario.
Yeah, Solitario. That's the one that I just got hooked on. That's the one that was on repeat for me.
Dope.
Like I like,
Dope.
I like the video. I like that song, and it reminded me of a brilliant producer. Cross. What did they call it? Cross branding these styles, right? Like it sounded like a Chicano Batman song featuring Olmeca, but it wasn't. It was an Olmeca track, which is dope because, you know, Chicano Batman sounds like Los Bukis, like kind of. You know what I mean?
They used to, dog, until they decided to take a different route. But yeah, that was
you know what I mean? That whiny corn, you know. But the El Solitario.
That fool's gonna say corny. That fool's gonna say corny. Don't eat your word. Don't eat your words, fool. Say that shit, fool.
Well, no. I don't mean corny. I mean, growing up hearing that kind of music like Los Bukis and all that stuff. But now as an adult, you go, wow, how nostalgic. I remember running around and, you know, buying stuff off an ice cream truck, hearing that blast by my dad or my mom, you know, those songs. They're very important to our growing up. But to bring it back into a pop culture and make people go crazy about it, that's dope. Like Chicano Batman kind of did. And obviously they're going to evolve into their own different sound. But you did that. I don't know, from my opinion, that's what it sounded like. What do you think? Is that a good critique of what happened to that song? I mean, that song was dope. And the video was just really dope too.
Well, that's one of those things that I don't normally talk about, but I grew up my dad was a musician, and he was a drummer, and he used to play for bands. They call them conjuntos back in the day that played that ballad style music, like Los Bukis, Los Temerarios, Los Solitarios. There's these other bands. Like I used to go to shows that my dad would be performing at and sleep under the table until that fool was done, not only with his performance, but done breaking down his drums and getting paid and all that. So by the time like we were done with our day, and I'm talking like, you know, 6-7 years old, it was like 3 a.m. So that music is embedded in my head. I started making music first by playing the drums because my dad taught me how to play the drums. And then I rejected the drums for a long time, just, you know, out of whatever. But that music is in me. It's actually easier for me to produce that kind of music than it is to produce like what would be considered like a boom bap beat from like the mid 90s, because that's kind of like in my vein. And so I did a song like in 2000 and I want to say like 7 or 8 with Chicano Batman called El Reloj, which which is it's another song, exactly the same style, you know. And so those songs were easier for me to, you know, to do. And then as far as the video was real easy because it was literally in my living room, and I just brought friends over and we thought of the concept and we just shot it or whatnot.
Wow. Because I thought you rented a studio for that one. That's cool.
Nah, man.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Olmeca, man. He's just that one-man band that knows what he wants and knows how to do it. And sometimes it rubs off on the wrong way and in the wrong way, and people don't understand. I know what you're saying. I know what you mean by that, you know, because, you know, when you record, perform, and do almost everything like we've both done for projects.
Yeah.
It's a big toll to kind of let people come in and say, can you change that? Because they're not sitting with you for fucking 10 hours straight trying to get this shit to sound classic, you know? And you can hear it once and go, oh yeah, I really didn't like that. But hear it over and over again. Like I tell my partner, I tell people that ask me about how long it takes to make a song. It's like, I hear that song 1,000 times, at least, minimum. And they're like, I don't believe you. It's not possible. It is possible. You just do it for 14 hours or 10 hours, and you'll see
Yeah.
that's how you kind of carve and whittle away at this perfect piece of art. So I admire your grind. I admire
Hey, and it's like a perfect piece of art, but just for you, you know. And
Yeah.
then however people receive it is how they receive it.
Mm.
Like this, that album, Define, which was the last album I did. So it's like okay, so like our elders, right? They always tell us, like especially in Chiapas when I was out there, the elders would say this, like, always take. They would, and it was funny, you know. It was like real funny because it was funny to them because it was get people from the U.S. to go out there, right? I would take people on delegations and they would go, and folks would like explain who they were as individuals to then talk about the work that they did and then why they did it. They spent a lot of time talking about it. And so then afterwards, like I would then go and meet with the Zapatistas and just kind of do a follow-up. And I would often, for whatever reason, always be pulled towards like the elders, like always the older folks, not the younger people. It was always the older folks. And they would tell me like with a smile on their face, you know, and they would always say like, it's very so be wary of the people that use a lot of words to explain something that they're passionate about. And I asked them why. And they said, well, because sometimes when you use less words, it's because you're that much more clear about what it is that you want. So less words is better because it shows clarity. And so what that told me was study your craft and get to a point where you know what you do not know and don't try to know it. Instead, go to somebody that can explain to you clearly what the next step is going to be. So it wasn't about like holding on to power as much as it was about trying to understand what it was that you wanted. So coming back to that last album, I know what I wanted because I studied and I grew up with that music. So I knew that I could not represent that music right on my own. So I flew out to various studios in LA and in Chicago to figure out what studio had the proper equipment, meaning like amplifiers, organs, soundboards, microphones that would be more cohesive to the sound that I was looking for. So I ended up going to a studio in Chicago that predominantly only had equipment from the 70s, which is when that music was made. And then I connected with a band called Dos Santos from Chicago to come and help me play the music that I had written. And so that's how that album kind of came to be. It is to make sure that it was represented the best way possible. So once I felt like this is the best I'm gonna get this music to be, then I relinquish it out to the world, and then whatever the world thinks of it is like, that's cool.
You know
what I mean?
I like the detail you did to create that album, but that's something that big budget people do, and you did it at an independent level. That shows the genius behind your craft. I know it wasn't easy because, you know, when you got $5 million in the bank account and you're like, hey, I want to do this sound. And then you're like, oh, I know this guy from Chicago who has all the equipment and a nice recording setup. And then he's going reel to reel and this and that. He's not using any kind of digital formats on that. Like right now, kids are used to getting a computer, some sort of a beat machine, and a fancy mic, and they think they're recording. Olmeca just described using a room with certain equipment, with certain wiring. People don't understand, like in recording, there's certain voltages you don't want to pass. There's certain things that you don't want to do when you're trying to get this analog sound that creates what I'm talking about in terms of Olmeca's music. I'm glad that you shared that process, because that shows the resilience of poor, neglected, indigenous individuals persevering and still creating products like a big budget person would. I mean, come on, that's a great story. Everyone who's an LA native, who is a young kid who wants to produce music correctly, listen to that story that Olmeca just finished describing about how he created that album. Because
Well, and it, sorry,
yeah, no, go
at the
on.
same at the same time, I don't neglect, or I wouldn't dismiss, like a youngster that gets a laptop and whatever, because it's like whatever you can use to create your music, that's what you do. I just always have to also have to honor the privilege that I had, to be able to do that. And that comes with time, like knowing, again, right? Like knowing the journey of what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
to then know how to ask for support. And the privilege comes when you have people that you can ask for that type of support.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't money, it was just more about the type of relationships that I had built with artists and things like that, that then you go and you ask, like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Do you know somebody, that type of thing. But also, when I first started making music, I jacked the Casio keyboard from Radio Shack. I put a cheapy ass microphone on top of a speaker, made the beat off of the Casio, recorded it on the little karaoke machine that was like a free, and then I did my vocals on top of that on the other side of the karaoke machine. That's how I started making music in my garage. So whatever, like, use whatever you have, whatever you can, to make whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, there's no wrong answer for that. It's just more about what the individual decides to do with their time and with their energy and with whatever resources they have.
I just think that, when they introduced Pro Tools into recording, it made it very easy to make music, and it was very comfortable and simple, and even with programs like Fruit Loops and things like that. And what I was trying to point out, what I just finished describing what you did, was you actually took time to go, this song in my head needs this particular equipment. And I know you had the contacts to do it. You wouldn't even thought if you didn't have it. But if you live in Los Angeles, you're going to take a flight to Chicago. That takes a lot of effort for your art.
Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure. I know what you mean.
And Armando knows the prime example of individuals who come from other parts of the country just to be a part of underground hip hop blog,
Yeah.
And they spend their own dollars and their own cents. Like, what I really want to point out on Mecca is that LA native community, it's our money that makes this music. There is no corporation that's going to go, hey, you know what? Olmeca has a point with his music and we want to heal the community or whatever. Olmeca has to do it because he loves to do it. And no white man or no white corporation or no obstacle is going to stand in his way. And I think that's what he's pointing out with kids who have a laptop. The only reason I bring that out is because I don't want kids to lose the artistry of making classical music.
Yeah.
In the steps that the people that we looked up to. Because when I started making beats, I had to go, well, who made beats? Oh, freaking, what's his name? DJ Premier. Okay, what did he do? How did he do it? What book can I find, or what DVD can I find? Do the research, and then you hit Jay Dilla and you hit all these other, and the RZA and all these other amazing classic hip hop producers, and then you go outside of the genres and start listening to other productions. I mean, I think that's what inspires me about the message you just shared with our young LA natives who are trying to become an artist or some sort of an activist that has music behind it, is take your time with it, because it's not something that happens overnight. And in this social media false reality, they always like, it's kind of like when we were growing up in the scene, Olmeca, it was like, somebody's going to come and sign us. That's that. Now it's like, someone's going to go viral.
Well,
right.
Yeah. Well, when El Vuh and Olmeca was coming up, like, you guys were forced to be social. You guys had to go to the best eat at cafes,
yes,
Taco Nazos, those underground venues. Do you remember those venues?
Hell yeah, bro.
And like nowadays, download Fruity Loops, GarageBand, make a song, email, a blog. Hey, I'm a new rapper.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's even worse because we at least go, well, if we invest a lot of money in recordings and make a kick-ass band and buy good equipment, someone will sign us. They get us with that. They get us with that. And who cares? Like, now that you kind of understand the game and you kind of understand how things are made, I'm okay with pressing 100 CDs and selling them. If who the hell sells CDs nowadays,
bro? Like when I was a kid, like you guys would approach me yourselves, like, hey, look, dude, like I want, do you want to buy a CD?
Absolutely.
Like, I remember buying all the Tumex CDs from him.
Yeah.
The crowd after he performed.
Like AC alone at one point. I remember way back in the day, I used to troll him, and he just went up to me like, "Yo, you want to buy a CD?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Can you sign it?
And Phil, and it was like almost like a privilege to be able to buy a CD from the artist, like, because you couldn't find the artist. Dog, I remember the times where I wouldn't sell the CD like to people, or even the tapes. I used to sell mixtapes. I really did in downtown LA. And I remember once I got into the underground hip hop scene, it was almost like a badge of honor to be able to be at a show to the particular artist that you wanted to watch, and then to then be able to buy the tape from them. And it's like you have this tape equated to like a ticket, a golden ticket, or a key that now you belong to this like underground network of like artists that only few people know about. I don't know if y'all ever kind of remember those days, but it was like you don't know about this shit. And it was like it's like a pride, it's like, you don't know about this, fool. Like let me show you. Dude, I remember trading CDs. Like I'll give you a Jism CD for for like your Chololan Cinco CD type of shit. It was like a trade off like that, and that was like a beautiful scene. But like speaking to the youngsters today, I think it's not. This is the way I feel, and maybe it's because I work with a lot of youngsters, but I just don't feel like it's their fault at all. I feel like this is the community that they've been given. Mm-hmm. So they don't have the communities that we had like growing up, and that's been stripped from them. Like invisibility for our community in many ways was a good thing. I almost feel like I wish we were invisible again, because in invisibility, you can create whatever you want and you can allow whoever you want into that world. But when you make your world like apparent to everybody, then everybody's going to want to come in, and everybody that comes in doesn't always come with the best intentions. That's what happened in LA. Like federal money got introduced to Los Angeles County, specifically to the east side. And all of a sudden, everybody became an activist. Everybody became an organizer because they knew that there was federal money to take from that, like to get. So in that way, it kind of like just divided the community in many different directions. Artists that are like considered Chicano, Chicana, that became part of like the larger Los Angeles music scene, where you had like record companies coming and talking to them. All of a sudden, these folks didn't want to perform in the community spaces because it wasn't big enough no more, or because, you know what? I don't want to just be a Chicano artist. I want to be global. You feel me? So like that started happening a lot. And so I don't fault any of them. I feel like it doesn't really matter even. My biggest thing with everybody is, and maybe that's the one part where I do kind of like I'm always really strict on, is that you got to have memory, bro. Like memory, hit the biggest stage, win a Grammy, do all that shit. But remember, have memory of where the fuck you come from, and like the people that help you bring up to that shit. Slow Rider didn't have no doors open, so we had to fucking kick that shit in. El Vuh had to kick doors in. As a matter of fact, we didn't even kick doors, dog. Like we just built our own houses.
Absolutely.
So it is what it is. There is beauty that came from that. The next generation after us, they didn't have to build houses. They didn't have to kick in doors. So they actually didn't even want to come in. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to go. They wanted to go to the bigger houses.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like this. It was like, Some other homies will be like, "Oh, you're a sellout." Other homies were like, "Yeah, fool, go get that money." I was always like, none of those. I was always like, "Can I go with you?" So that if there's something that you missed in the conversation, I can bring it up so that there's memory in this whole process. Because what's the one thing that they try to take from us from the beginning? They try to take our history and our memory. They took much of our language, they took much of our shit, but we're still here. But one thing that they didn't want was the knowledge of self and the history that comes through ancestry, and that's memory. And so I'm always very cautious to make sure that we have memory. Like if I talk to Chicano Bandman, if I talk to if I talk to La Santa Cecilia, these are all artists who have made bigger than Slow Rider did, or El Vuh did, or Olmeca did. You know what I'm saying? They have much bigger stages, but they come from a legacy, and that legacy is El Vuh, it's Quetzal, it's Ozomatli, and I always make sure that they remember those things.
That's cool. You know what? That's cool because sometimes you run into these individuals like in backstages or stuff like that, and they know your music. They know that you come from this community that they came from, and they were willing to make sacrifices to make that money. They were willing to listen because there's a lot of compromise, my brothers and sisters, in making it to levels where you're getting awards. And that's not talking bad about the people who decided to do that. You made the compromise to get the reward. There was other artists that were like, I can't compromise that. And then their circles remained quote unquote small. But I think with the emergence of technology and your persistence of your life purpose, like you explained earlier in our interview, and our new technology with social media, you can create whatever you want. Just be mindful of what the message is, because we're trying to rebuild this community. When we started off in our movement, it was take the land back. But take the land back, you don't even know how to work it. You don't even know how it works or what to do with it. Like, first connect with the land. Know that any system of governance or any spirituality cannot disconnect you from an innate connection with the very source of life, which is our Mama Tonantzin, our great grandfather Tonatu. And whatever we do as a community and how we stand up for ourselves, everyone go follow Olmeca, because he has good advice. He has good message. He has good spirit. He's a good guy. I've known him for so long, and I'm proud of him. I knew there was this one community show that you guys didn't even play. Slow Rider didn't even play. And El Vuh went, and we played this, I think it was only 25 people, but I saw Olmeca show up, and he had Slow Rider flyers, and he handed a flyer to every person in that venue. This is the front man of a band. I go, that guy has heart. I'm going to see Olmeca. He's going to do good things. He's going to have a body of work that, this guy's dope. When I saw a person of that, he just sold, just seen him play a show with 100 fans, and he's at our little ass venue where El Vuh's kind of barely coming up, and he's passing out this flyers and talking to people. Yeah, man, you should go. It's going to be a cool show. Man, I felt this guy really loves his art, and he's not going to have an ego going, oh, there's only 25 people there. I wasted my time. That's why Slow Rider became Slow Rider, and that's why Olmeca still has a career in music, because his heart is genuine and his message is well produced, and he has his own little vibe, his own intelligence, his own little world. So congratulations with that, brother. I'm honored to be in the, if you mention Olmeca and El Vuh or Zero's solo projects and stuff, I would be honored, because I know he works hard and he makes his stuff real professional without no corporate involvement. Right? Am I right? Unless you got Sprite to sponsor you or some shit.
I'm trying to get Coca-Cola, but they won't, or Doritos, but they won't do it.
Oh, I see.
No, I'm playing, man.
Doritos, bro.
No, it was like
no, I want to see the Bad Bunny remix with Olmeca. That's what I want.
That's a whole another conversation too, dog. Like the whole Latin Grammy shit. Like that's the world that, I've been kind of honestly kind of thrown into. I don't really even, but it's just that shit is just it's a trip, man. Look, the best thing I could say, man, is like make music for you and the people you love, and everything else will come. Like that's like maybe many folks have already said that shit, but it's very much real, you know, because it's at the end of the day, man, like look, a company is gonna come and they're gonna tell you, we love you, and if you fuck with us, then like your world's gonna change for the better. And then you go and you do whatever for this company and nothing happens, and you're really unhappy and unsatisfied with what you produced, but it's out there in the world, you know? Like I almost got caught like 2 or 3 times doing that, you know, with companies, right? Because you get frustrated as an artist. You go like, man, why do I have, you know, 10,000 followers on Instagram when I should have 100,000 or some shit? What do I need to do to get 100,000? And so when you start thinking that way, then you start making music for a purpose that is superficial, and that it's not real. It's not real. But when you make music, the best artists are the artists, and the best music comes from artists that haven't been signed, and that's because there is no interest outside of themselves as far as like the quality and the aesthetics of the music. Now, if you find yourself in your bedroom making music and saying like, yeah, with this song, I'm going to get 20,000 followers on Instagram, then you're making music for an institution or a corporation that's going to give you followers that may or may not be there tomorrow. And then today they'll tell you, well, you know what fans really want is the story behind the artist. And guess what I've run into with younger artists. Young artists start making up stories about who they are, so it could be a sellable point for them to have fans. Wow. And you know what happens? Some of these youngsters forget the story. Like a year and a half from now, they forget the story that they've been telling, and it just starts looking fake. And then like just their people just start dwindling off. That's why a lot of artists now have shorter careers, predominantly because what they want to do is be at a spotlight. Music provides a spotlight, but that spotlight creates fan base on Instagram, and that allows you to then become a product or sell products or start a company or whatever. So the outcome is not really about the music. It's more about becoming a brand or becoming a content creator that has enough pull to be able to have sponsorship. That second part is okay, but it's okay when you creating something from the heart, like, because it's gonna make you happy and it's gonna make you full. But then when you have the pressures of like, when you pressure yourself only to do something so that with the possibility of then having some sort of notoriety for income base, man, like I've been making music for a long time, and I'm going to continue to make music, and I make a living off of my music, and I'm comfortable. Like I bought a house off of my music. And it's not because I was trying to buy a fucking house, but it's because I made enough money with what I love to do that I get to come into my office right here every day, happy as hell, because I know I'm not working. I know I'm fucking making music, and I'm trying to make something that's going to fulfill my life purpose. And that's it. It's a simple fucking equation.
It's you know, it's so much to do it to make a living off of music, because, and this is where I'm gonna bring Armando into it. There's a marketing plan that artists have no idea about. They know, they go, well, I invested in my studio, I invested in the beat, I invested in this dope gear that I have on, but they didn't invest in the ads that they need to run on IG. They didn't invest in the ads they need to run on YouTube. They didn't analyze their website or their traffic. They don't know where they're, like, there's so much other. Can you speak about that?
Well, their inner circle is gassing them up.
Yeah.
And that's the fake audience that Olmeca is talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know, just that fake audience that is artificially created based on a point of a persona that they want to be at, you know, because of desperation.
Right.
Like, people are not making music out of their hearts anymore. Like, people are making music to attract more likes.
Right.
And I think that's disgusting.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah, well, because then a person will do anything to get those likes. A person will, you know, do silly things and say silly things and make people feel a certain way. Just not even their message across. It's more about
I
like,
don't even think there's a message when it's a fast production of an artist like that, you know, just like, oh, all right, I'm an artist now, like exactly like how Armando just mentioned right now. There's not much of a message behind it. Again, they may have great beats behind their music, but
it's still superficial.
it's superficial. There's, you know, we got to listen to the music, the message behind the music.
Right. Well, looks like we lost Olmeca. Did we get him back?
Yeah, we got him back.
Cool.
And I'm just so blessed to know Olmeca personally and you, Zero of El Vuh, personally, because it's like you guys were the ones, in retrospect, you know, holding people accountable for the whole label of LA underground hip hop. When I would see you guys already there, I would be like, man, I already know what they bring to the table, you know. And then I would see Olmeca and then Acid Rain. I'm like, whoa, like guys, like. I would tell my friends, like, guys, like, I just can't wait till you guys to see him perform live, because it's like, I appreciate that. Maybe at the time I wasn't really getting it because all I wanted was to hear the dope stuff, like the dope shit, right? Olmeca. But if you think about it now, Olmeca is like, God, like, you guys were visionaries. You guys already knew, man, I have to give it the best. It doesn't matter if I'm performing in front of 15 heads or 100 heads. Or 500 heads.
It's because I remember this is a cool story that Olmeca and we shared this little story, and hopefully you'll remember it. When Olmeca and I decided to be MCs, you had to be a really dope MC. You had to be like, you had to have some stuff that like, because if you shared it with your friend and it was even a slight bit off, you were getting laughed at. Or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's so whack. Because, you know, you had to go up against people who are like spitting some real stuff, like in the radio. You're like, you can't be whacker than the guy spitting on the radio. You have to be just as good, if not better than the guy on the radio or whatever outlet you decide to get your music from. And then one time when Mecca came up to me, he's like, dude, man, I'm playing the show, man. And man, I looked into the crowd and more than half of the crowd is MCs. There's no fans. We're waiting to get on stage to play for maybe about 60 other MCs waiting to play. It just, and he's all, dude, it just got so, Olmeca's telling me this. He's like, it just got so saturated. Like I almost don't want to play anymore because it got so saturated. And that's what happens when a technology floods the market. You know, everybody can make it and everybody's good. Now, okay, now I have an album. You know, I recorded this. It's a long road. One of my managers just tell me it takes 25 years for an artist to really get to be that artist. You know what I mean? It takes 25 years before that artist is known for that particular art. Like Olmeca, political, social, a cross branding of Mexican hip hop or Spanish speaking hip hop with indigenous, like that's Olmeca. Like you could try to be like Olmeca, but that's Olmeca. But it took a long time. I mean, how long you been doing music, bro?
Too fucking long.
Exactly.
Already tired, fool.
Exactly.
Nah,
exactly.
Man.
It takes
Hey, Zero.
It didn't take one mixtape, not even two.
There's a person on the chat. I'm not sure if they're talking about you or me, but they're saying that they're confused. They're confused.
They're confused? Want beef? Who wants beef?
And they're also saying that
Ore Belinco, with all respects, will there be people whom are more educational without dropping the F-bombs and with more cultural awareness? If he is really an educator, why can't he use that mentality to speak on something new? Yeah. Bring some fruit to our minds. I am confused about what he is.
I think the first part. I think the first part they're talking about me, but look, talking shit or saying bad words doesn't correlate with your intellect. You know what I'm saying? So you're giving quote unquote bad words too much power, homie. Whoever you are. You could talk a lot of shit and still be very intelligent, you know? Not to say that I'm very intelligent, but
Absolutely. And I'm just kidding, LA Natives community. Look, the purpose of this podcast is to understand that people have different ways of speaking. People have different purposes. Some people are very conservative about the way they speak. Others are very loose. And I know that when they come to the LA Natives house, you're free. You're like sitting down at your homie's house, your best friend's house, and he's gonna be loose. Olmeca's gonna be loose. He's gonna feel comfortable. You wouldn't do this in another type of interview. I know he wouldn't. He feels at home, and he is home.
I am home.
He's my homie for over 22 years, and I understand that other people have different ways of speaking. But to the brother that maybe it didn't fall right in the way that anybody on this podcast is speaking, I take full responsibility for that because this is my podcast.
And maybe just being mindful that it is a family podcast too.
No, I agree. But I also want people to be loose because this isn't a conservative show. This is a show that really puts things in your face, that really tells you that indigenous people are survivors of genocide. So I understand that people have this line that we want to cross, that, that we're holier than thou, and that's more colonial in position, because we want to be this Christ-like figure that doesn't make mistakes, and that's not the way our people understood it, man. And almost every powerful medicine man that has been presented to me had his own road and had his own battles with alcoholism or some sort of abuse that he did to himself. This is why we're here on this earth. So with that being said, we're all family.
There is no perfection.
We love you. We love Olmeca. We love our community. And enough with the bickering, because the more organized we are, the more connected we are, the more forgiving we are to each other, that brings real change. More than taking down a fake border who someone else is going to control.
Yeah, and that's the truth. That's the truth. But both of y'all, what y'all are saying, because we all come in different shapes and sizes and with different attitudes. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not to disrespect anybody, but we never been people to exclude. We always been people to include. So if this particular person would simply say, hey, I would appreciate if you don't use certain language because my son or my daughter or my whatever is listening, then that's a different approach to the conversation, and then that's something that I can respect and I could be mindful of. You know what I'm saying? For sure.
Which we've had that before too.
and this is why I love this podcast, because what people have to see, and this correlates with every single interview that we've done so far, that everyone's 100%
raw, true,
100% raw. Yeah. And in the hip hop game, people have to understand it. If for cats that don't make music, and especially if you're from the LA underground hip hop scene, it's like a battleground out here. Mm-hmm. People have battle scars out here, right, Olmeca, with trying to get attention at those days when it was so of a reality that you had to be super dope. Yeah. So it kind of, egos do inflate, and people do have egos. I remember, Zero, I remember when you would go into a venue, like just by reading your body language, you were like, yo,
he's blessing you out.
I'm a shit on every MC that's in this building.
Hey, Zero was a egomaniac, dude.
I was an egomaniac.
Me and Zero clashed a lot, because it's like I'm telling y'all, like I was always the first one to say when I messed up. If I effed up somewhere, I'd be the first one, like, yo, that's on me. That's my bad. Somebody who has an ego don't do that. Somebody who has an ego says, well, if X, Y, and Z didn't happen, then yeah, maybe. You feel me? And so I remember Zero had a real big problem with acknowledging when he was fucking up or when he was messing up. And I'd be like, I would almost like keep at it until like he some way, somehow he said, oh yeah, that was on me or something. And only then would I be satisfied. And maybe that was my ego, but that was like, I would do that to Zero. I would do that to Vic. Dude, I would do that to Vic so much, dog.
Oh, Vic was another that's a whole nother podcast. Like we could do a podcast on
change the subject.
No, we love
Yo,
Vic.
I remember tripping on shows like, I don't know if you remember, Armando. I think it was you all show when it was me and Cholo Lancinco performing, and I was like, you all wanted me to go at the end, and I was like, I don't want to headline this show because I got something to do, and it's Cholo Lancinco, and I want him to, like, you know,
Yeah.
and so then I was like, let me perform first, and then Cholo could do his thing, and then it was like, hey, hold up, because we're running late, so we're gonna let Cholo go, and then you'll go. I don't remember if it was you all, but I remember this clearly, and I was like, dude, if he's running late or something, just let me go, let me do the show, and then he can do his thing or whatever. And it was like nah, because whoever it was that wanted me to headline, and I just would not let it go. I was like, yo, like, I wouldn't let it go. See what I'm saying? So it was like, it's not your show, Mecca. Be quiet, play when you're supposed to perform, and then that would be the end of that, you know. But it was like ongoing conversation about it.
Well, I mean, everybody, it's like Armando
And
said.
I'm positive it was probably one of my shows way back in the day, because I remember booking Cholo Lancinco, and I'm sure you were there, Olmeca, too. It was a very small venue. I vividly remember that.
Well, you know, when those type of venues happen in the underground, it's like pit bulls. We're all pit bulls. Like,
Yes.
Olmeca's a pit bull, even though we're homies, and Cinco is my homie, and Tumex is my homie, and we're pit bulls in the back going, oh, there's a good crowd, I want to get on. You know, and I'm not saying that's what happened with Olmeca. I'm just saying that we have that in us. Like, I remember early on when the scene started really popping, we would be really like that. Like, nah, crowd's good, let's go. Come on,
right
just
now.
tell them to go on. Just tell them we're gonna go on. And the promoters all tripping, and you know, well, let me ask, and they're all tripping out and stuff like that. But that's just the way underground hip hop scene is. You know, you gotta like assert yourself, know that, because I know when, and I say this in a good way, and I hope it comes off in a good way. I know that when I walk in the building and Olmeca walks in the building, we're both walking in there going, we're gonna be the best performer of the night. And that's a healthy competition. I want Olmeca to be the best performer of the night. And he wants me to be the best performer of the night, because everyone in the crowd's gonna have the greatest performance. But we're like pit bulls going heads, you know? Like, I don't want to be like, El Vuh was okay. You know, I was like, nah, El Vuh's gonna be like, they're gonna talk about our show after we play. Yeah. That's the way we went into the venue, in a good way.
But it was like, it was distinct. It was like distinct scenes for me, though. You know, like the underground hip hop scene where Acid Rain lived. You know, like the Project Blow of the world. That was that one attitude that I had, was like, yo, we gotta come correct. Because I remember people, like some artists, didn't want to perform after us because of the energy that we put out on stage. Even though they were headliners, they didn't want to go. They didn't want us to go before them. They either wanted us to go like way before them with a few artists in between, or they wanted us to perform after. And so that was like a really healthy competition in the underground hip hop scene where Acid Rain lived. But as far as like,
go on.
This is great information for all the partners out there that are, you know, with an artist. You know, this is what they have to go through as an artist. So when they say, yeah, I perform at 9 o'clock, yeah, they ain't performing at 9 o'clock, you know, at all.
Yeah, no, and part of it is because of this. Part of it is like the you know, greedy promoters and the club owners, where they, you know, they just want to prolong the whole thing, or it's like artists fighting with the promoters, like, put me on, and like, you know, that kind of thing. So that would happen a lot. But then with the other scene, though, with like our scene, Zero, with like the indigenous culture, the Chicana political world, that right there to me was more about like, your message is so important, you got to come correct. You know what I mean? Like, it was different. With Acid Rain, it was like a game. It was like, you know, it's the hip hop scene, it's the aesthetics, it's how you're gonna flip your verses and your styles, how clear are you gonna be on the microphone. Ooh, I could see that the soundman is lowering the volume for us because I just heard him talk to the manager of the headlining artist, and guess what? That's the trick that they do. They lower the volume on the artist that goes before, so that the main act can go, you know, and it'll sound better. And so then Art Acid Rain was like, oh, we saw that happening. So because of that, boom, 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 boom. All right, let's do an acapella. You know what I'm saying? But then with the underground hip hop, with the Chicana indigenous scene, it was more like, are you prepared? Because you're going to war right now, against the system that is trying to win over the minds of our people. Like that was my attitude with it. So it was like we're not at war with each other. We're at war against the system.
Right.
You as a warrior, are you prepared to go into battle? Because if you're not, you should not go on stage. That was my attitude. You know what I'm saying? So it was like two different approaches.
And I respect that, because I remember going out to those events that Olmeca's talking about, and he knew why we were out there. We were not only, we wanted good hip hop, but we wanted a message, you know, to learn more on what, you know, people like Olmeca and El Vuh's music was all about. You know, because I remember some of these shows, a lot of real underground hip hop heads would go to these shows, right, Olmeca, to seek more than just the traditional LA underground hip hop show that was like at the Taco Nauzo or something.
And
bro, you're like dead on, fool, because we would grab like Acid Rain wasn't involved with the indigenous like political world. So I remember people that would go see Acid Rain perform at the you know, your typical underground hip hop shows at random warehouses in fucking downtown. I would see some of those folks then go to a show where I was performing with Slow Rider or as a solo artist. And I go like, ooh, that fool is here for more than just the music.
Yeah.
You know, you're like dead on with that. Like,
well, you know, the dope part about our scene was that, yeah, we had this pit bull attitude. That's just like normal artist thing. Like, I'm better than you in your own head, because you're like hyping yourself out like a boxer. You're going, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you hit the stage and all of that competition shit or all of that thoughts of, you know, asserting yourself go away, and you become this vessel of a message. At least for me, because I didn't go into the underground hip hop scene. I didn't want to be a good, I always used to tell Vic and Eric, I go, I use hip hop as my medium. That's my medium. That's what I'm good at. I could write poems. I can make beats. That's my medium. But I didn't want to be a Karis One of the scene. You know what I mean? I didn't want hip hop to be above my culture. My culture's everything. You know, that's what's going to stand out, at least for my art.
And with that being said, you will always catch Zero right before he performs, at least 15 minutes before his performance, praying on the side of the stage, completely in meditation, you know? And I want to acknowledge that, because you do take that, you know, and this is acknowledging the artistry of being a musician and a rapper, you know. Some people devalue it, but this is a way of life, you know. You guys have a message, and you guys are integrating that message along with our cultura and going into that deep prayer before getting up on stage and sharing that floricanto with the community, you know. Absolutely.
Because, you know, like I said, you know, it had that competition, it had that vibe that Olmeca's talking about. But when you on our indigenous side of things, since I didn't experience that underground side of things, it all, as soon as you got the mic and you had the crowd in front of you, what you felt in the backstage or who cut in front of you, because we had a lot of that, like, oh, they want to play, and we were humble, so we'd be like, go for it. And then it's like, be careful what you ask for, though, too, because if you play in front of us, like Olmeca said, you better be better than me, because then you're going to fall off. It's going to be like, they're not going to remember your performance. They're going to remember the performance that came with humility and all of this energy that I'm talking about, where you shut off the colonization part of your brain and go, we're all in this together, and I'm just going to do my part, and here it is.
Yeah. Those kind of shows, everyone was equal.
Yeah.
The LA underground hip hop shows, there was always right, Olmeca, like a headliner. Doesn't matter.
And it even with the LA underground hip hop scene, like with that was that, you know, it was like, well, we know AC alone is gonna headline the event, so it is what it is, type of thing, you know. But on the other community that we're talking about, not a scene, but the actual, you know, Chicano indigenous political community, it was easy, like to to feel good there, because it was a different purpose almost for me, you know, like it was like I can go on stage before or after, it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna call Zero up on stage with me because it's just what it is. It's just family, and El Vuh's gonna do the same.
Yeah.
If I remember, I remember a show at 4th of July, Janice, but now that we're talking about that, because of like personal issues I had with some of the organizers, I wasn't invited to the show to perform. But all the other artists, I'm talking like from the beginning to the end, invited me to go and perform because they found out that I wasn't going to perform at the event. And so from not going on stage, I ended up going on stage every set, including with La Santa Cecilia, with Chela, Siwatse, and like 3 other artists, you know, like, and because it's family. It's like, if I'm performing, you're performing too. Just come correct, because it's medicine that we got to provide our people.
Absolutely. They will check you on that too. It's like, if you're coming off, you know, on the ego side of things, or trying to use the medicine to kind of push your ego, you better believe that our community is going to say something. And so that's the way it should be. You know, our community has a strong voice, and the music that Olmeca brings is that strong voice. You know, it's one of the strong voices. And, you know, Olmeca, you always know that in the LA Natives, you always have a home. You know, whenever you come out with new projects, you know, we'll be here to support you, brother. I mean, you've been a part of the LA underground music scene since I can remember, and that's like 20 years or 22 years, at least from my career. And I know you were doing it before El Vuh, you know, so that to me is a dedicated artist that I'm excited for anything you put out from this point on.
Yeah.
Because
it's all
about your road, bro. You're very intelligent. Look out for his lectures. Look out for anything Olmeca puts out. Go to his page, go to his social media, go to his YouTube, subscribe, support, buy his shirts, buy his music. He is genuine. And I know that in our community, people will say, well, he and this and that and that. Let's just put that aside, because that's not the space that we're in right now.
Listen to the music, and then I think you'll completely understand.
Yeah. Is there any questions out there for him?
Where can I find his lectures at?
Ooh, there you go.
Well, that's interesting that they asked that, because this year is the year of recording. So like last year, because of COVID, I ended up being in the studio a lot. So I got 3 albums done, and they're all very different albums. And then I have another album I'm gonna put together just like as an instrumental. But another thing I decided to do was actually like put the lectures together. So like record them and then just put them on YouTube. I'm a little bit more hesitant about that because it's not my comfort space, you know, to record myself talking. But that I am gonna start to do that. And if you Google, you know, if you can type in Olmeca University lectures, some will come up that I didn't record, but there's some out there in YouTube world. I'll be recording some myself eventually.
That'd be an amazing idea to document your one. It's like almost like documenting why you wrote this verse, right? That's at least the way you explained it, and then how it fits in the social, political atmosphere that our people live in now. But you were going to say something?
I'm curious to know, what are you currently doing now? As a musician, as a professor, what
are you doing right this second?
Well, I'm teaching online right now. Like I'm teaching a few courses, like 3 courses. Honestly, like it did take a toll on me not being able to tour last year. That was pretty rough. I didn't realize how important touring was in my life. So it really did kind of mess with my headspace. For that reason, I went into the studio and just kind of grind out like a lot of music, you know? So right now, what the plan is to continue to teach online, and then just put the songs out. You know, I'm gonna try to put out like 1 song every 2 weeks, since I have like 3 different projects happening. So hopefully that's gonna happen the 1st of February, where I'm gonna put out the first song, or you know, start promoting the first song.
Well, definitely just keep hitting us with your music and your art, because you know you'll always have a home here on LA Natives. We'll always support your music, and as we grow, which we've been growing like exponentially.
And this won't be the last time you guys see Olmeca. We'll definitely bring him back on board.
Yeah, we got to get him. Has he done the what do you call it that you do on the underground?
The mic sessions?
Yeah.
Not yet, but we're definitely planning on that. Yeah, it's definitely going to be fire.
That's a must. That's a must. Olmeca.
So I heard there's no freestyle with this interview.
Oh, so yeah, there was like a writer that was faxed to me at about 5 minutes before the show hit, that Olmeca's, off the grid on that area. Unless he wants to.
It's because I forgot. It ain't nothing personal. It's because I forgot how to freestyle.
Oh,
the mind don't work as fast no more. Bro.
Hey, no worries, bro. We got to respect the artist and their request.
Well, we got a few requests saying yes, freestyle.
Oh, dang.
Maybe you
can. It's not me now. It's not me.
Well, look, for anyone tuning in, just make sure do us a huge favor and follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
And even more important, subscribe to his YouTube channel. Right.
Yes.
And absorb all of his content, all of his knowledge, wisdom, and his experience. He's definitely a true heavyweight in the game.
Absolutely. He puts a lot of work into his art, and he should.
He's put a lot of years into it.
Yeah.
And thank you for accepting our invite.
Of course, dog. This is like, if I would have said no. And look, honestly, man, I'm in a headspace right now, like a personal headspace with like a lot of tragedy happening in my family, where it's like, I'm honestly, I'm not gonna bullshit. Like I've declined a lot of interviews already, simply because I just don't want to. What was the process like? Doing this album. Fuck, like I already talked about that shit. Like there's already an interview, so don't. You know what I mean? Like I get it. I get the whole game. Like that's for their audience and all that. You know what I'm saying? But I just in my own heart, I have to be responsible with my emotions and with my heart, and it's just I just had to say no to things, but. You all, it's like I told you from the beginning, like there's a lot of things that I want to say that I haven't said because I just the space, it's all about alignment. And so you all are family. And so I would come on here and ask and answer any questions that you all had. I wouldn't do the same for others, to be honest. But I'm grateful that you asked for me to be here. And it's very healing for me to be on this interview. So thank you for that.
Good, brother. I mean, because I want you to know that we love you very much, man, and
we miss you out here.
You're an integral part of the evolution of this type of music, this indigenous hip hop music scene that we're trying to expose, Armando and I. And in the future, in 2021, when our family is together, we'll do shows together, and we'll bring back a new version, a 2.0 version of what we did in the early late 90s and early 2000s, where people had a lot of heart. They just were we as a community were just a little bit too off-centered to see the reality of our impact, our message. Our heroes were KRS-One and Public Enemy, and if we had to write songs that were better than that, you better go find our music. Go find our music, man. Go find it, because we felt like we were as good as them. We are as good as them. We were them. We were our version. We were the Public Enemies of our time. But no Rick Rubin and no, Def Jam. Because, come on, if they give the voice to a rising indigenous community all across the country, it's a different game.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole another conversation there too, brother, because doing like these national circuits with the universities and the lectures and all that, you come across like thinkers, right? You come across thinkers, and let's say intellectual producers of the things that we read. And so you hear their perspective, because they see me and they go like, Mexican American in their eyes, right? Mexican American or Latino, hip hop artist, political. How is that possible? Because the hip hop community doesn't have that. The hip hop community at large doesn't have an indigenous or a Latino, quote unquote, MC who is just an MC. You'll have East Coast Latinos who are MCs, but you don't have a West Coast Latino MC who is just an MC. They have Latino rappers. They have Chicano rappers, Chicano MCs, but they don't just have an MC. And what does that mean? Well, it means that they don't know that we exist and that we have a certain perspective about the reality of the United States and a very specific perspective about our role in hip hop. So that is a conversation, and it's a conversation that isn't well accepted because folks are not ready to accept for lack of better terms, a Mexican or a Mexican American who is part of the US narrative when it comes to hip hop. Yeah. So that's coming, and that's the next fight. That's the next struggle that we're gonna have, is talking not to the audience who already understands this, but it's talking to the intellectual creators to accept that we exist in this world as quote unquote through an American experience, quote unquote, or through a US experience, that we have something to say and that we have a very different perspective about the creation of America in general. They just ain't ready for it yet.
Joaquin Thunderbird just put on our chat room, El Vuh, Olmeca both inspired us in the Northern Cali movement community.
Nice. Well, shout out to Northern California because they showed a lot of love to the people from LA. And when we went up there, it was like almost going to another LA. You know, it was dope. Yeah. Those Chicanos are fired up. They're you know, they have their own little different things.
I'm so excited for, you know, our fans that can't catch the live, because when they listen to the stream or watch it on YouTube, they're gonna be blown away.
There's a lot of history on this one.
You know, this interview went a little, you know, longer than usual. Why? Because it's like we all are intertwined in some way in this underground hip hop community that we're all like devoted to.
Man.
I don't want to, you know,
this is what I want to tell our audience too. Is it's like we're all tied into this LA underground hip hop scene in one way, shape, or form, and that's the roots, I think, behind this whole game. You know, in this podcast, because, you know, like Olmeca, like I just hit up Zero one day and I'm like, look, I have an office, we got the blog, we're smashing, you know, I have this podcast equipment, and, you know, how would you like to be a podcaster and just tell your story? Because I felt like there wasn't an indigenous hip hop movement or scene being exposed right now, Olmeca, like, and like I'm just a diehard fan of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? One thing led to another.
That's a beautiful thing.
You know?
That's a beautiful thing. And Zero Engine were the right people for that. And so it's dope. I'm more than happy to come back and we can talk more about it, because, you know, I there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said about it, and I could always just focus on my music, but like you said, because we're all intertwined, like it's you're at a family cena right now on a Sunday evening and shit. Well, this shit's gonna go for a minute.
But I wanted it to be that way. There's no, when we invite people to come on this, you know, obviously we want to be professional, have a certain kind of format, but not when it's important for an individual to really solidify his contribution to something that we innately started feeling inside our heart that we had to say something about. We had to say something about indigenous people being misused. We had to tell the story of Chiapas. We had to tell the story in Los Angeles about you know, the Chicano right movement. We had to tell people that there are sweat lodges, there are ceremonies, there are places that our ancestors still continue to have a heartbeat. They did not win. In Los Angeles, right? In Los Angeles. So Olmeca, the politically social activist, artist, genius producer, and amazing artist in person. You know, thank you for being on our show, brother.
Thank you.
I can't say thank you enough, dude. I mean, thank you for supporting my little podcast that we got going on right here, and know that, you know, when you come to LA Natives, we're reviving that movement, that indigenous movement, but this time no fighting, no judgment. We're all one people. We're all one people. Yeah, we're all one people. And I know we're still going to be fighting and there's still going to be judgment, but the premise is that we don't do each other. You know?
Yeah, and I don't know by who or for what reason or whatnot, but it is what it is. I miss LA a lot, man. After leaving, I realized that it's been 7 years since I moved out of LA. And
Wow.
I moved out of LA because of my family, man. Like my family really needed me out here, and so I had to respond to that, But who knows what more we could have done in conjunction and in collaboration if I was still in LA.
Mhm.
But I'm glad to be here with you all, and the fact that y'all are building this. And Zero, since we've known each other, dog, you've always used the word little, like my own little podcast you just said, and I'm like, my brother, like it's not little, like nothing that you do is little. Like
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
big, dog. It's a universe.
Thank
This
you.
is a universe that you're introducing people to because
Yeah.
they don't know about this.
Absolutely.
So, I understand why you say it's because you're humble, but in our humility, we also can't forget our value.
Yeah.
And so, this is a beautiful space that you've created, and it's worldly. And whether it's 10 or a million people listening to it, it's a necessary creation for the universe, man. So thank you all for this, and um, whenever y'all want me back, just hit me up. You can hit me 30 minutes before, bro, and I'm always gonna be here for y'all. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, man.
Hair slick back
have
and
some
all.
special segments. We're planning on a Patreon where we're going above and beyond on certain topics, and then our Wednesday open, Q&As and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're growing rapidly, Olmeca, and there's an audience out there that's seeking this knowledge, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this, in the beginning, but we have a lot of diehard fans that are like treating this as medicine.
That's
They look
beautiful.
forward to this show, and I knew that it was my job to really invite the heroes, because when there's a moment on stage where you look around and you're on this big stage and you're like, is this really happening? Like, what the hell is this really happening? And that's where I kind of want to stay, in that state where, is this really happening? Is this podcast? Can I come and get this really rare artist that I've never heard of, but is completely connected to my life? Like, I connect and I relate to everything these artists are saying. And I think that's what we're providing here for LA natives and Olmeca, podcast number 10.
Podcast number 10.
Slam dunk.
Make sure everyone tuning in, follow Olmeca and subscribe to his page, our page, follow us on Twitch. Again, thank you, Olmeca, for your time.
Yeah, man.
And it's been an honor.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Bless
Thank
you.
y'all.
Wow. Another wow, right? That's like 10 wows in a row.
That's our next shirt. Wow. After Ali Nader podcast.
Hashtag global indigenous. Yeah. Wow. Hashtag global indigenous. I mean, Olmeca is a professional, and you just can't say that enough. He is a professional, and as a professional, because I consider myself a professional, you give it 100% all the time, to the best of your resource ability, and he's been doing it for forever, man. I can't remember he was already had a band when I met him.
And much respect to the chat,
Was it chat popping or what?
Ore Belinko,
it was,
for him to express his concerns,
His disagreement.
We will always
disagreement,
be
and
your
this is what
voice.
LA Natives is about. Like, influence like that, Zero. If it wasn't for our idea moving forward with this, it wouldn't have became what it is today. Like, seeing comments like that and having your opinion stated, that means the world to me.
Well,
You know?
I know that really quickly, when you leave children alone to take care of themselves, they're going to fight. And I think that's what happened in the early years of us developing this Public Enemy style indigenous. We were left alone with this great responsibility, And now we have LA natives. And you're not going to have that attitude here. That attitude doesn't belong here. We are all family here. This is the reason why we made this podcast. I was going to go, look, I know a lot of people. I have a lot of connections. I played all over Turtle Island. I'm going to make a space. Let me correct, because my beautiful partner always corrects me. I should always think that way. We have created a space that people look forward to get them through next Sunday. Not in a way that I can't live without it, but in a way that makes them feel good.
Yes.
That's cool. That's a freaking cool thing. Armando, congratulations on that. Jennifer, congratulations on that. Because this is a powerful team. Look at this table. Look at the medicine that's put in front of it. Armando's equipment connected to a multimedia global outreach. So we depend on you to share our podcasts. We depend on you to buy our shirts, donate, and chime in on Wednesdays, our new show, where we're going to have a Q&A and we're going to talk about political stuff, current events, anything you would like to talk about. We'll if you're in front of a computer, we'll send you the link. You can be side to side with me, and we're just going to go over these things, because sometimes people want us to go in depth about what we know. And what we know is that we're humble, indigenous individuals who have been chosen to carry certain medicines and share them with you, the community of LA natives.
Check it out. That's one of our original test prints, a gray type t-shirt. We're going to be giving away that to one lucky viewer, and our new vinyl sticker. Those are not paper stickers, by the way. Those are high quality vinyl.
These feel really nice.
Yeah.
They feel nice and
those are
thick.
3x3s, and
So these are excellent.
I just handed
on those water
a kid
jugs.
50 of them. He's about to smash all of downtown LA with those stickers.
Sweet.
So that's what it's all about. Our new giveaway for this episode is this gray shirt.
Absolutely.
And the sticker. So for any new subscriber on the website that signs up by today and next week, I'll just pick one good winner, one lucky winner, and then we'll announce it on the next show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we're ordering hats.
So
We're gonna have some hats coming in real soon.
We're putting a focus on these garments, because they're going to represent a movement that, like I just explained, when you see an LA Natives logo on someone, you're in a family presence. You're in the presence of somebody who, exactly, like Jenny just finished saying, we're part of the Kalpuli. You're part of the Kalpuli when you rock our shirt, when you wear our hat, when you donate to our podcast. We have to do this because this is how we sustain ourselves. So please don't feel like, we're pushing anything on you. We're mentioning it. We have it. It's done.
Right.
It's done with quality.
And yes, we could go the social media route, tag so-and-so friends to have an opportunity to win this or that. But we want people to get in the habit of subscribing to our website, because that allows us to avoid social media as a whole, and to get directly at you for our future promotions and uploads and news and stuff like that. So, like I said, we pick our winners on our subscriber list. So if you guys want to win this dope t-shirt, a powerful test print t-shirt, because this is going to go a long way. And then the sticker, make sure you guys subscribe. And next week we will announce the winner.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Aztec Mayan Desante. He's been rocking with us, I think, for many episodes.
Yeah, shout out to the chat board, man.
That's the family that came out on your video.
Oh, cool.
Shout out Joaquin Thunderbird. He's a huge El Vuh fan.
Sweet.
Olmeca fan.
Absolutely. I mean, it's impressive to see where we're at today after episode 10, getting comfortable in our seats and knowing that we're going after good artists to come and expose you to. But we also have Wednesday coming up, which excites me as well, because at that point we can be a little bit freer and director with people, more direct with people, what they want to hear. Like they want to hear about certain topics that we didn't really kind of cover, or we don't cover in specific ways. I know my partner has a lot of wisdom when it comes to childbirth and women's health. That's an important, topic as well. Armando's the king of underground hip hop in Los Angeles. So there's going to be a more loose show on Wednesdays, and that'll lead us up into Sundays that where we invite a family member in and we expose that family member with you guys, and you guys are able to follow them and continue to be a part of our community and share what we look forward to do every Sunday. Me and Jenny and Armando, I should say, look forward to doing LA Natives. LA Natives is like a part of our lives now, and
yes,
you're a part of our life.
Aztec Maya Dasante, thank you, sister. You mean the world to us, and thank you for supporting. And yeah, you know, this was a great interview. We're gonna come back strong next week. We have a heavy lineup this whole month.
Yeah.
And let's keep it moving.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage people to, show some love out there, man. Get on the phone. Hit up our link on Spotify. Is it the link on Spotify?
Yes. We have a question on the chat.
Decals be available?
So the decals will be available by tomorrow morning on our website. And like how Zero mentioned, for any t-shirt or sweater purchase or hat purchase, we're going to include a vinyl decal.
Nice. So we have a lot of things in store for you. We're going to get some posters made. We're going to get a bunch of stuff done so that our community can really solidify itself and have its little badges that they share with their community, and they let them. It's because when they wear a t-shirt and they're asked about, what is that? What is LA Natives? I want to know what that is. Oh, that's home. That's a place where I learn about my ancestors. That's a place where I learn about an artist that really puts in work for our community. That's a place where we stand up and we're men and women in the face of an oppressor who has been oppressing us for a very long time. You don't have no rules here. This is our universe here in LA Natives. This is our tierra in terms of the perception, not to own it and sell it off like a piece of meat or a furniture. No, to connect. This is the community that we're creating. Connect with us in any way, shape, or form. But just leave a comment on the chat. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to our website. We push this at the end so that we can have more people to share this message with. You're powerful people, and when we put it all together and we respect each other and we look in the eyes and we understand that we're seeing ourselves, when we look into another person's eyes, we are seeing ourselves, the reflection of our own self. In Lakesh, the Mayan philosophy of understanding. I am another you. That's what LA Natives is.
And you are me.
Absolutely,
yes.
baby.
Right on. Let's see everyone next week. Make sure you guys subscribe, support, check out our website, check out the new merch. I'm definitely going to go ahead and put those decals up for sale on the website. Mm-hmm. And my next step is to actively work on the Patreon and the production for the Wednesday show, because it's in dire need, I believe.
It's gonna really it gets you prepared for Sunday, right? Because like Sunday you look forward to it, but then Wednesday kind of, you're gearing up to say what you're going to say on Sunday.
Yes. And Joaquin, how to subscribe. There's a little area on the website, LANativespodcast.com, somewhere in the top middle area where you can just simply put in your email and then confirm it on a reply back on your email, and then you're in, and you'll definitely be able to qualify to win one of these giveaways.
So once again, podcast number 10. Jenny, you got any last words?
Through all 6 directions.
Absolutely.
We share our medicines with you guys all, whether you guys are sharing it or hearing today or throughout the whole week. We honor you guys all and we appreciate you guys all. And we are here to be the voice for you guys all. So I appreciate everybody that has logged into the chat room.
We'll see you this Wednesday for our new show.
Yes.
Stay up. Stay strong. I know that there's a lot of change happening out there in the world, but our ancestors understood that life is nothing but change. It's how you're perceiving it. It's how you're accepting it. You have to be a warrior during this time. As a matter of fact, I believe that all indigenous souls that are coming back to this earth are here as warriors, raising our next 7 generations with love, respect,
Connections to Mother Earth.
I can't say it anymore. Just love yourself, love your children, and love the land that you walk on. LA natives, Zero El Vuh.
Oh,
LA natives.
Jenny.